Okay, so welcome back. We were just talking about Porter's competitive five forces, and I kind of got slightly tongue twisted trying to explain a problem that students sometimes make when using five forces, is that they switch their point of reference or their unit of analysis. So they're talking about an organization and they discuss that organization as the supplier and the customer, rather than actually focusing on that organization and thinking about who its customers and who its suppliers actually are. And that, so that if it's, you pick an organization in an industry and then you relate it to it, but you don't use that organization as a new entrant or a supplier, and you consider those. So that's why it's really important to pick a good example and work from it. Another thing that Porter contributed is this idea of the value chain. So this is back to the to the connection of between the different information systems in the organization and how an organization actually creates value. So again, it's important to know the different steps in the value chain. So we talked a little bit about globalization, and I would think for this exam, it's more be aware of how the world is actually changing and the impact that actually has on innovation. So something that is, excuse me, I just need to close the door. So something that's quite important in information systems, and it's a real people issue, is the idea of what ethics actually is. So it's really important for you to have a fundamental understanding of what ethics is, and that's a set of principles that guide our decision making based on personal values of what is right and wrong. So it's this idea is that it is actually personal. There's almost like a moral dimension to it. So what one person thinks is right and wrong is different to another person's. So the purpose of ethics is to facilitate trust between organizations. The challenge is that there's cultural differences. There's a need in organizations to maximize shareholder value, and sometimes that can come at can have implications for whether we're doing what is right or wrong. So another thing to think about is the steps in ethical decision making framework. So it's this idea is that and I really recommend that you look at those frameworks and think about the different things in the notes regarding what the different sources of ethics are, whether they come from legal basis, from religious basis, what impact it has on the corporate environment, how it applies to technology. So there's a number of articles that have gone up on Moodle, both on the revision page and on the ethics tab, and I would suggest that you have a look at those as well. It is something that's really important. So the other things we think around that is we had the private Manning case study, the WikiLeaks stuff, and the different things. So there's no shortage of examples. Also the Volkswagen case, there's no shortage of examples of organizations or individuals who've been faced with ethical dilemmas. So it's really important for you as a student addressing this exam that you understand what ethics are and how you would address an ethical problem, and again have those examples in, I was about to say in your back pocket. Please don't bring anything in your back pocket. Have those examples in your mind so that when a question like this comes up, you have an example that drops in and lets you illuminate the fact that you understand the question. So another topic that's quite important is privacy. Again, there's a little bit of an overlap with ethics, but again, this idea of privacy salience is the level to which people actually care about their privacy. Some people have relatively low salience, and they're not actually that bothered. So it's kind of felt that it's considered a characteristic of millennials that they have a low degree of privacy salience. They're very open to sharing things, and they're not that concerned what other people know about them. But it is important to realise that there are threats relating for your privacy. A lot of times students will focus on things like the financial risk of hacking and whatever, and they'll keep stating that over and over again. Privacy, but also relates to keeping things to yourself. So risks around privacy are people bullying you, lack of self-esteem, missing out on jobs, people finding out things or telling things about you to other people that you don't want to know. So there's actual privacy has implications, and something that came across maybe in some of the settings of this exam is that people didn't quite grasp the difference between an actual financial risk and a personal risk from privacy. So there's all sorts of stuff on that. I'm not going to go into it in any detail because I did in the last slide. Another thing that kind of crosses between ethics and privacy is this idea of employee monitoring policies. So it's really important that these policies are ethical. If an organisation is monitoring people without their consent or in a way that's not consistent with their policy, they are being unethical. Another challenge around the socio-technical security threats. So again, there's a certain amount of content on this in the previous slide. So what we have in place is controls. They can be physical controls, they can be technical, they can be access controls, communication controls, and application controls on the actual software themselves. So there's different types of threats. Can be unintentional, it can be natural disasters, technical failures, management failures, deliberate acts. So there are the different things around it. So another topic that we covered a little bit was this idea of data, information, wisdom and knowledge, and to be really aware of the fact that data itself is relatively valueless. It's only when we extract some kind of put it in context and extract some kind of knowledge or wisdom from it that informs our decision making, it becomes valuable. So we talked a little bit about big data as well. But something that I think is quite important is this idea of open and closed innovation. So again, some people actually struggle with this in the summer exam, and it's something that I think is quite important, is to really understand that in the open innovation paradigm, ideas and the technology base comes from both inside and outside the organization, whereas in the closed innovation paradigm, only ideas that are generated inside the organization are considered appropriate. So it's really important that you kind of understand that difference and get your head around what the difference between open innovation and closed innovation are, and why there's been a shift towards open innovation. So if we're talking about the changing environment, we might actually examine the environment. We might discover that technology has increased the pace. We look at Porter's 5 forces and we see that our environment has become less attractive. Our barriers to entry have broken down. So we may discover that we need to cooperate with some of the other organisations through open innovation. So there are a series of differences between open and closed innovation, and people need to be aware of it. So that kind of wraps up the first 6 chapters. I think there's a couple of things that maybe we didn't focus on maybe as much in the summer revision slides, and that I've tried to cover there. So I would suggest you look at both of them. What I would also say is don't rely on the fact that something has come up, it'll come up again, or it hasn't come up. It's a different set of questions, and the same topic might appear, but as only half a question this time or something. So that there are things to be aware of. It is really important that you look at the textbook and you take out the cases and get the useful examples. Read the articles that have been posted on Moodle. If you have questions, email me, use Moodle, it's really important. So finally, what I would like to wish you, anyone that's taking this exam, again, the best of luck. If you have any questions around the content, technical questions that is, please feel free to ask. Don't bother asking me if such and such a topic is coming up, because I'm just going to answer that. Alright, thanks for your time, bye.